I suck at cooking, so I told ChatGPT to pretend to be Gordon Ramsay and give me a 5-day cooking course where every day I prepare a different gourmet dinner. Not only would I find out how expensive gourmet cooking is, but I'd finally know if I had what it takes to be a professional chef instead of a programmer, and boy, was I surprised by the results. So I was ready for day one, which was ratatouille, which I've never had, let alone heard of, other than obviously the movie. And I went to the store to get some bell peppers, onions, garlic, and zucchini, and yellow squash, which is apparently just yellow zucchini. And the recipe also called for eggplant, but I sort of hate eggplant, so I just got the smallest one I could find. After everything, it came out to be around $20.29, and it was finally time to take Gordon's first lesson. Oh yeah, I also bought a chef's uniform off Amazon just so I could feel a lot more official while doing the challenge.
All right, Anthony, listen up. Today is all about mastering your knife skills. Start by sharpening your knife and use a honing rod to align the blade. Do this before every use. Now grip the knife like you mean it, but don't strangle it. Pinch the blade with your thumb and index finger and wrap the other 3 fingers around the handle. This gives you control, not just power. First, let's try thin matchstick-sized strips. Perfect for carrots or zucchini. Next up, chiffonade. Roll up your leafy greens like a cigar and slice them into thin ribbons. I think basil, mint, spinach, delicate and beautiful. And finally, the brunoise. Tiny dice, about 1/8-inch cubes. This is where precision comes in. If your pieces aren't even, it's going to look like a dog's breakfast.
And while it did look like something I would feed my dog, this was the first time I was able to cut an onion without crying, so thanks, Gordon. It was finally time to start the ratatouille. So first I added the onion, bell pepper, and garlic to the pot, and I let it get aromatic. Then I added the crushed tomatoes, thyme, and stirred it with some salt and pepper, and yeah, it didn't look that appetizing, but I decided to just trust the process. And after 10 minutes of simmering, I blended it up, and to both of our surprises, it actually tasted pretty good. Then I lined the base of my pan so I could start assembling it, and I quickly realized that I didn't use the proper ratio. We didn't have enough tomatoes and eggplants, so we had to use way more zucchini than anything else. And while it turned out somewhat scuffed, it was a gourmet looking ratatouille. I popped it into the oven for 35 minutes, took the foil off, and then popped it back in for another 10 minutes.
Now take it out of the oven and let it rest for a few minutes before serving. If you've done your job right, it'll be a thing of beauty.
And boy was he right, it looked beautiful, but that only lasted for all of 15 seconds before I absolutely butchered the plating. But don't worry, that's a lesson for another day. And as for how it tasted, it was alright. The sauce was really flavorful and the veg wasn't mushy at all, but it was just veg covered in sauce. I'd give it a 6 out of 10. I feel like some protein could have really helped things out here. And overall, it cost $20 for the food, $39 for the chef's outfit, for a grand total of $59 spent on day one. Okay, so it is day 2 and we're supposed to be making some like duck breast thing. That's all I really know. So this is the second store I've gone to trying to find duck breast. That's right. Today we're making duck breast, which was kind of weird considering I said hi to my duck friends just earlier this day, but it was literally impossible trying to find this thing. I'm kind of in disbelief. They have a full raw rabbit here, but no duck. We're on our way to the 4th place to try and find some duck breast. I popped home and put the chef outfit on. Hopefully people start taking me more seriously. We can get some duck breasts. All right, we're at place number 5. If they don't have it here, I'm just getting some chicken breast and calling it a day. Boys, we did it. We got the duck breast. It's frozen as well, but at least they're just breasts and not the whole duck, so hopefully it should defrost pretty quick. In total, the duck breast cost around $20.24 for 2, and I didn't realize it, but chef didn't have anything else planned for me to make. It was just supposed to be like seared duck breast, and I have everything else to make that. So I guess what I'll do is I'll put some of what I learned in day 1 into use by preparing some simple vegetables and potatoes to have on the side while I listen to day 2's lecture.
All right, Anthony, we're diving into the world of searing and deglazing. Pat your meat dry. Moisture is the enemy of a good sear. Season generously with salt and pepper.
I heard this is like thing you can do with water where you like add a bit in, and if it like bounces around like that, it means it's hot enough. So I think it should be good to go.
Heat a pan until it's screaming hot. Add a small amount of oil and then place your meat in the pan. Don't move it. Let it cook undisturbed for a few minutes until a deep brown crust forms. After you sear, you're left with all those delicious browned bits stuck to the pan, and that's called fond, and it's pure gold. Deglazing is the process of adding liquid to the hot pan to lift those bits off, creating the base for a sauce.
Now, while I thought things went pretty well, it turns out I did 4 things extremely wrong. Number 1, I cut too deep into the skin of the duck, so it ended up burning the inside, which leads to the second mistake, which is number 2, it didn't fully defrost in the inside, so some of the pieces actually came out a bit raw, but don't worry, I didn't waste them. I fried them up and fed them to my dog afterwards. Third, the recipe called for unsalted butter, and I didn't know if I had that or not, so I just tried my butter and I think it was unsalted. And fourth, while I was trying to worry about all of this stuff, turns out I absolutely burnt the vegetables. Okay, you love duck, right? What do you think?
I think it was really good.
3 hours of running around, all for this little guy right here. And a huge mess on my stovetop. Not a fan. Not a fan. Probably give this like a solid 4 out of 10. And yeah, despite all the effort, turns out I'm not a big fan of duck. The sauce came out a bit too liquidy, and of course the vegetables were burnt. And because we didn't buy anything other than the duck breast today, our total for the day was $20, which brings our overall cost of everything included to $79.79. It is day 4. We are back to buy some more ingredients. I think we're making scallops.
Come here! Yes, sir. Just touch them. Just touch them. They're fucking overcooked.
I understand,
Rubber
chef.
scallops.
Sorry, chef.
This really is like a Gordon Ramsay menu. We're making some scallops and also asparagus and stuff. And this time I was able to find everything pretty easily, but I figured why not buy some cool new plates so that it actually looks okay when we try plating them. All right, I got a few of these plates, so our plating's gonna look better, and oh my goodness. Plates are not cheap. I know I can't be the only one that thinks it's absolutely impossible to try and open these bags. Altogether, it was like $30.58. Definitely the most expensive meal so far. I'm gonna be real with you. I've had scallops like one time in my life and I wasn't that big of a fan, but the sauce for today sounds bussin', so we're gonna give it a try.
Today we're diving into something that separates the amateurs from the pros, emulsions and sauces. An emulsion is a mixture of two liquids that normally don't combine, like oil and water. These days scallops are delicate, luxurious, and a perfect canvas for a beautifully emulsified lemon butter sauce. Pair them with asparagus and you've got a dish that'll knock your socks off.
Now, if there's one thing that this taught me, it's that laying all your ingredients out before you start cooking and putting everything away afterwards makes it so much quicker and easier to actually focus on cooking and clean up after. ChatGPT never taught me that, but you know, it just forced me to actually do it. You know, I heard it on a TikTok or something. Also, I think I got the water thing wrong from yesterday. I think the way it's supposed to be is like if you put water in and they all bounce around like that and they sort of like go crazy instead of like immediately simmering. That's how you know it's ready to go. Although I definitely messed this one up because it said to put these in before, like it said to heat them in it, not add them after. So yeah, I probably messed this one up pretty bad. Oh God, it's burning, isn't it? Ah, shit. God damn it. Butter is burnt already. Oh, that smells horrible. I'm gonna dunk this and try again. And while day 3 got off to a pretty rocky start, I started over again, and the scallops were actually cooking quite nicely. They did look a bit undercooked in the first batch, but the second batch turned out pretty good, and the asparagus was starting to boil, and everything was sort of coming together. Even the sauce looked a lot less liquidy than it did yesterday, and it smelled absolutely amazing, so I couldn't wait to try it. All right, I really don't want to fuck the plating up like I usually do. I'm gonna try and do this with some finesse. Okay, these are not the right tool to use if I want finesse. Somehow, despite having nicer plates, I still made it look absolutely terrible, which I guess just goes to show that the plates don't make the plating, the chef does.
I like the flavor, but I think it's a little overcooked.
Time for the chef to taste. Yes, it is a bit overcooked. Somehow the crust didn't develop. I didn't do it right, but it's still overcooked. But that tastes really good. The sauce is amazing. You can really taste that lemon. This is by far the best thing we've made. I'm giving this like an 8 out of 10. I do, however, feel like I'm going to be left just like the day we made the like ratatouille. It didn't feel like enough food, so I had to like have some food afterwards. This isn't really the most amount of food possible, so I'm probably gonna end up getting something afterwards anyways, but yeah, it tastes amazing. And day 3 was by far our most expensive meal yet, with the food alone costing $30, the tools, aka all the plates, costing $46, for a total of $76 just today. And that puts our overall cost of the video to $156, and we're only 3 days in. All right, day 4, there's not much I need to pick up. I think I just need some filet mignon, some golden potatoes, and some truffle oil. And apparently we're gonna be sous videing this. I didn't realize using a sous vide machine was like gourmet, but I did have to purchase one off Amazon. That's right, as if things weren't expensive enough, I had to find the cheapest sous vide that was actually good quality I could online on Amazon, as well as a container to go for it. $47.69. These 3 potatoes, truffle oil, which I think is only like $10. The bulk of it was this guy right here, and the chef wanted me to get 0.45 kilograms. I only ended up getting 0.34 kilograms, and from what I can understand, this is beef tenderloin steak, which is not exactly the same as a filet mignon according to Google. So I don't even know if I got the right thing or not, but we're just gonna run with it.
Okay, Anthony, for day 4, we're stepping into the world of sous vide, a method where you cook food at a precise temperature in a water bath. Tonight's dish is a showstopper filet mignon with truffle mashed potatoes. This is a dish that screams luxury.
And basically what you're supposed to do is put the steak as well as some butter into a vacuum sealed bag, vacuum seal it, and put this in a water bath for like an hour and a half. Okay, I definitely messed that first one up. I like tried to seal it, but then I saw the little knob and I was like, oh, what was this doing and then I realized it cuts the bag. But the second one is looking good. I don't know if you're supposed to put the butter in like that. Like maybe I was supposed to melt the butter and put it in, but I guess we'll find out. So the sous vide is preheating right now, and I didn't realize it, but you actually have to put the steaks in there for like 2 hours. Sous vide update. It's I think it still has like quite some time to go, but it looks like the butter's melting and sort of encapsulating the meat. In the meantime, I made the mashed potatoes, which actually came out really beautifully. And by the time the sous vide was done, I took the steak out and it looked a bit pale. I wasn't sure if it was supposed to look like that, but they did mention you had to sear the steak to give it a nice little crust, so that's exactly what I did. Okay, we have our steak done. I don't know if I overdid this crust, but I'm gonna let it sit. And I tasted some of the mashed potatoes. It looks really good. I don't even think I need a sauce, but I'm gonna use what I learned on day 2 and 3 and try to make a little pan sauce just to go over, you know, the mashed potatoes and stuff like that. And as usual, the plating wasn't the best. The sauce sort of turned out like a soup, but it smelled amazing. I was ready to dig in. Stephanie, about to take the first taste.
Really good.
Did you try with the sauce or just?
Yeah, with the sauce.
All right, let's try this out. First, the mashed potatoes. No truffle sauce? Yeah, the mashed potato is really good. It is cold because I waited a bit. Sauce is really good, surprisingly. I don't know if you see that. Like, it does look medium rare on the inside, but it still is a bit tough. Maybe I should have cut it. Or like, I am just using a fork. I'm not, because I'm trying to film with one hand. I think I did over-sear that one side, so it's a bit tough on that one side. I'm not in like a good way. Like, it's not like a crunchy good. I think the mashed potatoes are really good, and it was so simple to make this. I'm gonna give this a solid 8 out of 10. It would get higher because it's like filling and it tastes really good, but it was so expensive. That's right, the food was $47. The sous vide and the container totaled $246, which made day 4 by far the most expensive day at $293, bringing our total for the video up to $450.
All right, Anthony, you've made it to the final day. Today we'll be working on plating and presentation with a beautiful seared salmon with quinoa and microgreens.
That's right, day 5 might have been a simple dish, but it was facing my greatest weakness, which was plating food without making it look like absolute trash. First order of business was to put the salmon on, but I quickly realized something went wrong. So I tried to do the middle burner this time because it has double the amount of like, I guess, burners or whatever, or like gas thingies at the bottom, and I thought it would like maybe heat it a bit better compared to like the other burners, but I think it's actually too powerful. Yeah, the chef's not going to be happy about this one. I think I really fucked it up this time. I even turned it down, but you can see the oil on like the sides of the pan is like getting all burnt and stuff like that, which never happened when I cooked it on this one before. And yeah, by the time I took them out, there was only one way to describe these.
Your salmon crispy as fuck on the bottom. Because the pan you put them in were like smoking. Like, I'd expect her to sear a beef in it. Shit!
Okay, Sean.
Fucking shit!
But the important part was that I get the plating right. So I started off with some quinoa, and I used one of those round circular baking tools to try and get it perfectly in the center. And then I gently placed the salmon on top and sprinkled the microgreens and some herbs all around it. And it sort of looks messy in the video, but I promise it looked a lot better in real life.
Skin is a little bit tough.
Yeah, not surprised.
It's really good. Minus the burntness.
Okay, before I dig in, let's talk about what went well. What went well is the plating looks decently good. I think that the quinoa should be interesting, and I sort of like the flavors that I added in there, so I'm going to be excited to try it. But obviously what went terrible, the salmon is like completely burnt. Some of the quinoa, it's actually not bad. It's more flavorful than any quinoa I've ever had before, but clearly I did something wrong because the flavor's not like that prominent or that good. But finally, I'm gonna try the salmon. Yeah, it's overcooked. It's overcooked and there's not that much flavor in there, I guess. I think I'm giving this one like a 5 out of 10, which is really sad because I wanted to end on a high note. And looking back, I realized we did end on a high note, a high financial note. While day 5 was pretty cheap at $24 for food, we spent overall over the course of the video $143 on food, $331 on tools, and a total of $475 in the entire video. On average, each meal cost $28, which is roughly $14 per person, and that may be quite a bit, but for gourmet cooking, I feel like that's not the worst, and I feel like Gordon Ramsay would be proud of me. So if you enjoyed this video, make sure you subscribe.
Anthony, you ran into some bumps along the way, but you nailed this challenge, proving you're more than just a cook, you're a creator. Keep pushing, keep experimenting, and most importantly, keep enjoying every moment in the kitchen, you fucking donut.